Very pleasant good afternoon to each and every one of you. It's good to see you. Looks like we're a little slack tonight. We're going to have a talk with those who didn't make it back. Especially some over here on the goat side. Over here on this left side over here. Again, good to see you. God takes great care in pointing out that he expects those within the church to work together. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 to 12. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Now, we can carry this threefold cord out as far as we'd like to. And I've shared this with some of you before. Not long after I had become a Christian, my mother was having some dizzy spells. And she goes to the doctor, and they send her over to Jackson for an MRI. My brother took her over there. We didn't think anything about it, of course. Routine test. Well, during the MRI, and of course we all know that it wasn't caused by the MRI, but during the MRI she had a brain aneurysm at the base of her, at the neck base of the brain. And of course she went into a coma. And they called us all, and we all went over to Jackson. So for a period of 4 days, my mother was in a coma. We would take turns going back there to visit with her. Never ever really getting any response. But at the time, Joyce and I lived in Jackson. During those 4 days, our church family there never allowed us to be by ourselves there at the hospital. As a matter of fact, most of the time, there were probably 40 to 50 people there with us. My other brothers and sisters, of course, they were from out of town. They lived back in the Delta. They stood amazed at the number of people, friends, quote unquote. They did not really understand the church per se. They didn't understand how so many people would give up their evenings and their nights and days, to just come up to the hospital to be with someone. And it was an unreal experience, really, in that it was an outpouring of love on our family by the church there in Jackson. And I think this particular verse right here, Ecclesiastes, says what this is what it's talking about. If Joyce and I had to have gone through that by ourselves, it would have been bad. It would have been a lot worse on us, because we would not have had anyone to help us through. And Ecclesiastes says that. It's not good for one. Two's better. Three's even better. And you say 50? 50? Yeah. That's what the family of God is all about. Romans 15:5 tells us, "Now may the God who gives perseverance and encouragement grant you to be of the same mind with one another according to Christ Jesus." God who gives us perseverance and encouragement. Now, how is God going to do that? How's God going to do that? God effectively works through every one of us as his children. God helped me persevere, and he helped me with encouragement. Of course, because of his word strengthening us, but also immediately through the association of brothers and sisters within my spiritual family. And this is so important for us to understand. There are so many people out there alone. They have no idea what the spiritual family is all about. I'm going to be honest, I didn't either, really. I didn't either. When I was back playing on a denominational softball team, I really wasn't family with those guys, although most of us were members of the same religion. When I started playing with the men who were members of the Church of Christ, it didn't take long before I felt like that the team that I was playing on was a family team. It's kind of difficult to explain there, but there's a certain closeness. There's a certain tie that binds. I understand that now. At that time, I didn't. And because of that tie, because of that perseverance, because of that encouragement that is so important to us as members of God's family, that's one of the reasons why Paul exhorts us there in 1 Corinthians 1:10 that you all agree and there be no divisions among you, but you be made complete in the same mind and in the same judgment. The unity of the church, the unity of the family is so important to the progress made or praying to be made that we don't want to be sidetracked because of some little thing that's come up. And so God tells us, do not allow divisions to come in among you. Now, the Bible uses several groupings of individuals to illustrate the closeness, the unity, the personal responsibility that we should have to one another. A couple of weeks ago, my sermon dealt with the army of God, and that's the first grouping, I guess. The church within the Bible is compared to an army, okay? 1 Timothy 1:18 and 1 Timothy 6:12. Paul tells Timothy to fight the good fight. Fight the good fight. And there in Ephesians 6:10, Paul speaks of the Christian's armor. Of course, our commander-in-chief is Jesus Christ, and everyone within the army has a job to do. I know I was watching a movie the other night, and it had this nuclear submarine on it, and it had all the people working at all of their stations and everything through this submarine, and I just said, wow. Somebody has to be trained for every one of those things that has to be done on a nuclear submarine. And everybody on that submarine's got to work together to ensure that it does whatever the mission happens to be at that time. You can't have somebody on this end of the submarine doing something it was not supposed to do, or down here is not supposed to do, because it's going to get everything off. Everybody's got to be working together. And it could be an airplane, it could be a tank, it could be whatever. Everybody's got a job to do, and it's got to be done right, or otherwise there's going to be a problem. So our spiritual family, the church, is compared to an army, in that when you're in the army, everybody's got a job. Excuse me, everybody's got something they've got to do. 2 Timothy 2:3, Paul writes, "You therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who enlisted him as a soldier." It's not going to be easy, no. All the time it's not going to be easy. We're going to run into some problems. But if we have no divisions, and we are of the like mind, then it will be easier to work through those particular problems that we have. Unfortunately, I've seen some major problems within my life as a Christian, where people kind of divide. This is not what Jesus wants. It's not what he tells us to do. And we must at all costs not get into that. Within the church, we all have responsibility, just like within the army. We accomplish everything that needs to be done. One person doesn't do it all. Each person does their part. In addition to an army, the church is compared to a bride. Ephesians 5:25, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church, that he might sanctify and cleanse her without blemish." Christ wants his church to be holy, to be spiritually pure. And the only way that the church can remain spiritually pure is that the members, we talked about that in class this morning, the members comprise the church. And we have a personal responsibility for each of us to remain pure and holy and unblemished. Just as we would be hurt emotionally, very deeply, if any of our spouses would be unfaithful, Christ is hurt if a member of his church is unfaithful. And I'm not just talking about completely turning your back on the church. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a time or two when you make the conscientious decision not to do something that you should do. See, that's unfaithfulness to God. Now, of course, I'm not talking about when you're sick. I'm not talking about when there's some type of providential hindrance in you either coming to church or not doing what you know needs to be done within the Lord's family. I'm talking about you making a conscientious decision not to do something. That's being unfaithful to God. And we shouldn't even go there. A bride and bridegroom become one. And that's what we're to do with Christ and the church. So an army, the bride and bridegroom. The church is also compared to a house. Consider 1 Peter 2:5. 1 Peter 2:5. There. find it here. You also, as living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house for a holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Our spiritual house is the church. Each Christian is a living stone. Each stone supports the whole structure. Each stone has a job to do. And I must support, as a stone, my part of the building. You see, we support each other. We remove a stone, the stone above it weakens. We remove another stone, and another stone weakens. Eventually, the building will crack and fall. Again, the same is true with the church. If you become weak, you may hurt me spiritually. If I become weak, I may hurt you spiritually. I may cause you to falter. I may cause you to sin because of something that I've done that will make you weak. We have to be aware of that because I don't want you weak. I need you strong so I can be strong. I need to be strong so you can be strong. Each one of us are placed within the house where we need to be placed. And we can't do anything to allow ourselves to be pulled out of that structure. The church is compared also to the human body. 1 Corinthians 12:27, now you are the body of Christ and members individually. A little bit further, 1 Corinthians 12:12, for as the body is one and has many members, that's us. Of course, we know within our human body we have many organs and things that work together to make the body what it is. Each one is placed in the body with a purpose. And just as the human body gets its direction from the head, the church gets its direction from its head, that being Jesus. And I don't know if you're a little toe or not, or a big toe. But I know this. It never fails. Going around my bed at night about 3:30, I catch my toe on that iron bed railing more often than I'd like to think. And that brings me to my knees usually. Because when I get out of bed, I'm rolling. And I get my foot caught there, and it hurts. Although that's just that little bitty thing down there, it causes my whole body to hurt. And that's what Christ tries to get us to understand. We're all part of the body, and it doesn't matter what part, okay? We work together, we cry together, we hurt together, but we also rejoice together. That's why this afternoon we'll be going over to see Tommy. We want to rejoice with him. We want to encourage him. And glad to see him home, you see. And I encourage as many of you who can, give him a call or go see him or something. Why? Because he's part of that body that we want to support, that we want to encourage. Because when a member of the human body becomes diseased and stops doing its part, it hurts the whole body. And it's the same way with us as a Christian. When we become diseased with sin and we stop doing our part, it hurts the whole body. So in conclusion, I want us to consider Hebrews 3:12, where it tells us to take care, brethren, lest there should be in any one of you an evil, unbelieving heart in falling away from the living God. As a soldier, don't become a deserter. As a bride, part of the church, don't become unfaithful. As a stone in a house, don't allow yourself to be chipped away and fall out. And as a part of the body, don't allow it to be infected or diseased. We must work together under the direction of our head, Jesus Christ. For any reason we can help you this afternoon, let it be made known now while we stand and sing.
Have you been to Jesus for the cleansing?